pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Welcome, everybody that's here. Could I get a approval of the county board minutes that were sent to you?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Winter. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No, there's not. Could I get a motion to?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got
Second.
a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Child Support Awareness Month Proclamation. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Good.
Good morning, Bonnie.
Good morning. Whereas Child Support Awareness Month reminds us that children need the emotional and financial support of both parents to reach their full potential. And whereas Morrison County Child Support staff have a direct impact on helping families meet children's needs. Child support staff help families work toward becoming and remaining self-sufficient and financially stable by creating and modifying child support orders and collecting and dispersing child support on behalf of the children. And whereas Morrison County Child Support staff maintain very high standards of job performance and their duties require them to be well-versed in many areas, including the legal system. For every $1 spent on Minnesota's child support program, the state collected an average of $3.26 in support. Morrison County's average is well above the state average at $5.01 collected for every $1 spent. During Child Support Awareness Month, all Minnesotans are encouraged to look at the future of our state and our children and to work together to ensure their success. Therefore, the members of the Morrison County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim August 2021 as Child Support Awareness Month in Morrison County.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Winters.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? Commissioner Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is something that, over the years that we've always have you come in front of us. And again, this is something that's very important to our community, and not only just the community here, it's statewide. And again, you referenced the dollar amount, and these are all positive things that you here do at the county, so thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thanks, Bonnie.
Do we want a picture because it's a proclamation? I think so.
Yeah.
I love pictures.
Bonnie was hoping, she's like, I just want to make sure we get a picture.
I almost made it.
Oh.
Right?
Nope.
What are we gonna do here?
Well, I don't know, it's just one person, so maybe
Let's just all go together.
we'll get together. Maybe Brad wants to be in it. Brad, do you want to be in it?
Yeah.
Actually, I think Brian should be in it.
Brian should be in it. Yes, it's a very legal
It's
thing.
very important to the.
Squeeze in, really, right there, right there. Perfect, that's perfect.
You have a Facebook picture.
Actually, it would look better if you come and
Yeah,
stand
we-
behind her.
Yeah.
To even it out.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah. Nope, you gotta stand on that side.
Everybody's asking if you still worked here.
Yeah, yeah. There it is.
Really?
Thank
Okay, gotta
you.
Squeeze in a little bit. Yep. All right. Oh, this is beautiful.
These two
Carrier.
microphones are in the
No, it's
folder.
not.
Oh, here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Largely, okay.
I'm not here to heckle, that's a problem. We're gonna have to assign somebody.
Everybody look this way and smile.
Raise it up just a little bit. Thank you.
There we go.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for helping out, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Glad to add balance to the photos.
Yes. We just need your support.
You need balance, right,
The
Brian?
balancer today.
Your
All
balance.
about balance.
Hello, Shannon.
Good morning.
Okay, next we have soil and water.
Thank you. Do people typically read the whole resolution? Would you prefer if I do that?
Sure.
Okay. So this is a resolution to extend the Morrison County Comprehensive Local Water Management Plan. Whereas Minnesota Statutes 103B, 301, Comprehensive Local Water Management Act authorizes Minnesota counties to develop and implement a comprehensive local water management plan. And whereas Morrison County currently has a state-approved comprehensive local water management plan that covers the period from June 28th, 2017 through December 30th, 2022. And whereas the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources vision for the One Watershed, One Plan developed with the roundtable recommendation as a foundation is to align local water planning on major watershed boundaries with state strategies towards prioritized, targeted, and measurable implementation plans, the next logical step in the evolution of water planning in Minnesota. And whereas Morrison County has passed resolutions supporting the transition to completing comprehensive water management plans through the One Watershed, One Plan program in portions of the county. And whereas Morrison County is currently participating in the development of comprehensive watershed management plans through the One Watershed, One Plan program as outlined by the Board of Soil and Water Resources. And whereas Morrison County shall request an extension to update the comprehensive local water management plan until December 31st, 2025, and ensures continued effort towards completion of the CWMPs within the county boundary by said date. And whereas the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources has authorized to grant extensions pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 103B 3367, and therefore be it resolved, the Morrison County Board of Commissioners requests from the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources an extension of the effective date of the current county comprehensive local water management plan until December 31st, 2025, in order to complete the development of the remaining comprehensive water management plans within the boundary of Morrison County.
Thank you. Can I get a motion on that? Got a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Blaine, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Is there any further discussions? Not, we thank you. You presented the water plan and stuff to us before, and we thank you.
We have to take a
Call the
Vote.
question.
call the question.
Finish the vote.
Finish the vote. You asked who approved, but you didn't say all in favor.
I know, did you have any questions?
Oh.
I had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. It sounded like you were already dismissing her.
No, I wasn't.
See, I got the,
I wanted to thank her for all the stuff she did. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you
Shannon,
guys.
before you run away, I do have a question that is not related.
Okay.
But it's kind of related because it deals with water. And I think I know the answer, but because I don't for sure. We see that we are in a drought condition in Minnesota, in Morrison County, and we see pivots that are still running and such like that. My question is, first of all, I don't think you're the authority on that. I think DNR is, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know anything about that? Are owners of pivots, have they been told to reduce or anything like that, water?
So it's a good question, Mr. Chair. The DNR has water appropriations permitting, and they are authorized to manage that. And I do know that there is state law protecting pivots that are groundwater fed from being shut off in the middle of the season. So those producers that have irrigation systems connected to groundwater are not going to be shut off. But I do know that surface water drawn irrigation permits have been suspended in different watersheds. And Mark Anderson, who is our DNR hydrologist, has been issuing those suspensions for the last couple of weeks, depending on how the watershed is categorized. So I know Mississippi Sartell, a watershed, that went into that critical drought, and so they were suspending them there. I know that Mississippi Brainerd as well. So the Long Prairie watershed, last time I talked to them, had gotten some more rain, so they weren't suspending them there. But, and I do know, talking to Mark, that there have been some cases of well interference, not in Morrison County, but statewide. And those are things that individual private well owner, drinking water well owner,
Yep.
can make a complaint to the DNR saying my well is no longer functioning as it has, and they have a process for assessing the impact. And in that case, it has to be resolved if there is proven well interference because of an irrigator that's nearby. But the DNR handles that as well.
Good answer. Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Yeah.
Didn't have anything else. Okay, next,
See you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
you gonna be in the office this afternoon? Yep. I'll call you.
Okay.
Social service report, Brad.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning,
Since it is
Brad.
Child Support Month, I thought it important to bring Bonnie forward just to talk about child support activities, and this is kind of one of those first line of programs that really create self-sufficiency for our families, especially those who may be single. So I just thought it'd be good for Bonnie to share some of their work.
Great, thanks. So Minnesota served over 226,000 children this year, with less than 11% of them actually receiving public assistance. And over 95% of the collections went directly into parents' accounts. Morrison County's child support staff have logged over 75,000 activities and noted over 4,300 phone calls, serving over 1,500 children on our 1,600 cases. Our cases, 46% of them have never received any form of public assistance, and only 5% of our current cases do. Morrison County collected over $3 million in current support in this year, and we moved up another 3 spaces in the state rankings in this category, so up to 60th from 63rd. There are 5 federal performance measures on which the state and the county then receive reimbursement from the federal government. So one of our measures that determines funding is the percentage of paternities that we have established. So this is one area that the state maximizes its funding, and Morrison County does really well in this one as well. Our incentives on this, we have topped the $5 mark now, which we receive full reimbursement at $5. So we're over that now, which is because of my staff really just looking at additional options and enforcement measures. So another one of the areas that we receive maximum funding is the paternity, or the order establishment. And Morrison County in this area does better than the state average. On monies distributed on our arrears cases, we now have a rate over 79% that we're receiving payments on, moving up in the state rankings from 55th, from 56th to 55th. We had an over 7% increase in collections this year, probably in part due to the stimulus payments, additional unemployment, such things like that. And we went over the $5 mark on our cost effectiveness, and that moved us up to 30th in the state from 34th. And all cases that were pulled by the state for review from Morrison County were found to be correct and needed no changes. So again, my staff do a great job with that. The last chart I have is the one that is published by DHS every 2 years. It just shows where Minnesota ranks amongst our neighboring states. And clearly, we have some work to do, but we do our part in that and hope that at some point we'll actually get to 100% of funding through the state, so. We have also utilized the Father's Resource Program again and have contracted with them also for 2022. They really are a huge help to us. It gives us somewhere to send our non-custodial parents when we are unable to help with the actions that they're hoping for. So overall, our numbers look really good. We continue to look for ways to increase our collections. The pandemic requirements that we were stopping in certain enforcement actions are now lifted. So beginning September 1st, we can start to take some of those remedies again to try to encourage non-custodial parents to make their payments, driver's license, possible contempt, things like that. So, and because of the pandemic situation also, the numbers will probably be very skewed next year. We've just had a lot of changes and a lot of things we haven't been able to do. Thank you.
Anybody got any questions for
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jelinski?
Bonnie, if you don't know the answer to this, it's fine.
Okay.
But what does Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin know that we don't know?
That's a good question. I think we could fairly easily say that they know more than Hennepin knows. Them having over 50,000 cases, they really control our funding. And I know when I was there, it was always a big push to try to meet those measures, but for some reason, you know, their population is very diverse, just a lot of issues, so they really have a much more difficult time with trying to even get service on parties. You know, it's difficult for them, so when you don't meet those federal timelines, which are really tight, the numbers just go down. And I think that's a big part.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. All right, I have a couple of public health items next on the agenda. The first one is to approve the 2 a.m. closing for the Grubbin Pub, and the sheriff has approved this particular.
So moved for more discussion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Winter, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion?
Yes, I gotta get out more often. Where's Russell Holloway Grub and Pub?
Morrow.
Morrow,
Is that the
thank you.
Morrill one? Oh. Morrill, that was Route 626.
Well, then what's the next town? Is it
there's a-
Ramey?
yeah.
Is it Ramey?
Oh,
then?
Ramey.
Ramey then, yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go. All right.
We actually do have one that has a Foley address too in Morrison County, so
Isn't that one?
it might be.
I think it is that one, Route 26 or whatever it is.
No, Route, well, this is.
The Foley no, I was just answering his. He said one has a Foley address. I
Oh.
thought it was that one, but I could be wrong. Not that I get a
Hey,
whole
that
lot
was a
of-
great discussion. Now we
Well, I
know
do
it's
have,
somewhere out
actually,
there.
you know what, I think I had to, it's a Foley address
Okay.
on Nature Road.
All right, now I know. That's
Yep.
out in Ramey, Minnesota.
Okay, any other discussions? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Are you gonna hop on your motorcycle now?
Meeting's over. You can put that in the paper.
The next item I have is a request approval to replace our regional dental coordinator position. As you may recall, Blue Cross Blue Shield came here last spring and asked if we'd be willing to host a Region 5 position. We hired an excellent candidate. Unfortunately, her other job has taken its a priority. She is in the National Guard and she has actually been deployed probably for most of the time she was here due to the pandemic and civil unrest. And then unfortunately, another personal issue has arisen that she just could not do this anymore. And so she's really disappointed. Blue Cross Blue Shield is still going to fund this for the next 3 years, or about 2.5 now, and are continuing willing to work with us to make sure that this program is a success. So requesting approval to fill this position.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? Commissioner Blaine?
Brad, does Blue Cross Blue Shield assist us in helping to fill this void, then fill this position, or is this something that you and staff will take on yourself?
Us and our staff will take on because we want to make sure they're a good fit for our organization first and foremost. But Blue Cross Blue Shield does assist and also wants to have some input in who we hire to make sure it's the right fit overall for Region 5 and their other dental coordinators.
Super, thank you.
Any other questions? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And then I would just give a little update on COVID if I could. I know it's still out there. I just wanted to let the board know that about 48% of Morrison County residents are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, so we're still not quite to that 50 percentile. And I would say over the last few days, the case rate has stabilized. We're at 15.4, so we were averaging about 5 or 6 per day. The last 2 days, we're down to 1 or 2, so that's always good news. We did have a vaccination clinic last week. We did not have as good of a turnout as we had hoped. We had 13 individuals who came in to get vaccinated, so that certainly does help. And they will get their second dose in September. So still working on encouraging people to get vaccinated to increase our percentage, and hoping that these case rates stabilize. We are meeting with the schools before they go into session just to talk about the guidance and if they need any support or help or assistance. So I know they're planning for all contingencies as schools go, so.
And Brad, what age can they do now? 12 and above?
12 and up.
12 and above. Are you getting a lot of kids coming in?
We are not able to do kids because we only have Moderna, which has not been approved.
Okay.
But if you look on our Morrison County website, we are putting the ages of those who are vaccinated on our website by age group, so you can kind of see where we're at. I want to say this morning, I think the 12 to 15 were like at 269 kids.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may. So I think you said this 2 or 3 weeks ago, Brad, that you had so many injections or whatever, Visine, but whatever. Vials. Anyway, thank you, Commissioner. Anyway, what happens when those expirations, I'm assuming we have to dispose of them somehow, or before it expires, can we offer them to other counties or what? I don't know, maybe.
yes, good question. I know that they have extended the expiration on some vaccines. Ours go through October. I think we're down to 12 vials after our last clinic. And I have a meeting on Friday with other central directors, and that is going to be a topic of conversation about how can we make sure that this vaccine doesn't expire and that it can be used. So we'll have that conversation. But if we cannot use it and expiration dates are not extended, then we would have to dispose of it appropriately.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Thank you. That's all I have. Have a good day.
Should we take a break for a couple
Well,
minutes?
stories are, oh, there she comes. Wow.
Perfect time.
Okay, thanks. I just texted him.
Moving right along, huh?
Welcome, Amy, Land Service Report. Good morning, Jane.
Morning.
Morning, girls.
Good morning. The first item I have is to consider the interim use permit by Michael and Jacqueline Skrock, and that's to establish a home extended business specifically for a syrup-making facility. That was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at their last meeting with 4 conditions, and those conditions are the property owner shall provide for containment and treatment of the water from the maple syrup business separate from the bathroom waste in accordance with applicable law. The property owner shall provide the Morrison County Land Services Department a copy of the state licensing for the maple syrup operation. 3, abide by all applicable state and local laws regarding maple syrup facilities. And 4, the interim use permit shall terminate when the following members of the Skrock family no longer own the property. That would be Michael, Jacqueline, Lakin, Jada, Weston, and Willow.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Blank, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion? You know, I thought this here was a good example of how people start a business up, you know, it's just kind of small and stuff, and all of a sudden it grows, and, you know, a lot of times they don't realize they need to get a permit and this and that, because it just starts out small and it just turns into something. So it sounded like their business really turned into a good venture, and it was amazing all the gallons and stuff that,
Yeah.
it was amazing how many gallons it takes to get a gallon of maple syrup, so,
And I don't know, Mr. Chair, I've been to some of these, have you ever tasted it before it kind of got in a?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Don't go
doesn't,
licking the trees, it's not worth it.
it doesn't taste maple.
Not right away, no.
No.
So anyway, we have a motion, a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you. And then I've got Jean here for the abatement.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Jane.
I'd like to request the approval for Gold's abatement. And I just wanted to comment on this one, that he has paid the first half of taxes. So this would not be a check that would be written out, it would be applied to his second half taxes. He does have additional property, so the taxes will be above what this is. So it's not a check being written back, it's applied to the second half.
Okay, could I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Gene, can you explain this one a little bit more?
Sure. So, so last year, there was a law change. And the law change stated prior to last year in March, if you had a trust, the trust had to be in the same exact name. So you couldn't have a trust that was, if it was in both spouses' name, trust. And then if you had the husband's name with a trust and the wife's name in a separate trust, those could not be linked together.
For multiple parcels.
Yeah. So, so once the law changed, we had already taken the homestead off of this, but the law did go back to January 2nd. So this was an error as far as, because the law had changed and now it's different. So then we did go back and apply that.
And today what we're doing is cleaning it up.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So now you can have, you know, a husband and wife spouse and a specific wife spouse or trust and a husband trust, and they can all be linked together.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Blaine?
Mr. Chair, Ms. Pop, would this law change then trigger action then from your department to look at other properties outside of the gold property that we're considering today? And was it, you know, was it the Golds that approached us on this, or is this something that your staff you and your staff had uncovered in the process?
Once the taxes went out, you can see the large number, and he did contact us. So, you know, for the majority of them have been caught and had been placed on. This was really a timing thing because it happened, the trust actually happened prior to the law change, but because the law change went back to January 2nd, that's kind of, that timeline was the difficult part, yes.
Yeah, because we have property owners with.
Correct.
With
Yep.
multiple names within trust land throughout
Correct.
the county.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
very good, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Now we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you,
Amy.
Jean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. Okay, next we have auditor's report. Welcome, Chelsea.
Good morning,
Morning,
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
first on the agenda today, I have the July 2021 cash report. This is a report that you see monthly, and it just shows where our amounts are based upon fund. So just for you, for your review. And then next on the agenda, I have a request to pay all the bills.
Can I get a motion on that?
So moved, Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Is there any further discussion? Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chelsea, we talked about the Magic Fund here 2-3 weeks ago. Are we checking on that? I think you said you're gonna, because now, again, I brought this up, the interest rates are not so good with the Magic Fund, that maybe, and I sit on other boards where they're transferring it now to local banks. So is that, I know I may have brought that up, but are we pursuing that?
Yes, so as far as that question and when I gave the report, where our funds are, I had went over that we have to, based on Morrison County investment policy, we have to be collateralized at 110%.
Right.
We have to be FDIC assured, and so we are reaching out to banks locally if we are not already set up with them. However, if they can't hold additional collateral or meet our policy, then we can invest more money. So that is where counties or cities, school districts are working and having more funds in the Magic Fund, is because they can allow for excess funding and be collateralized and covered safely.
And I think I know the answer, but if you could explain, what is, they have to have additional collateral? What do you mean by that?
So certain banks, depending on if they're a credit union or a corporation like US Bank, they have to be insured $250,000. If they are not insured, then they have to go out and get collateral, meaning coverage, anything over excess of the $250,000, and meet our requirement at the 110% being collateralized on what we have as a total in that bank.
So it's kind of like a reinsurance or additional insurance, kind of, is that what they're doing?
We have that in place for security so that if a bank were to ever belly up, we wouldn't lose our funds.
Mr. Chair, it's a law that counties have to
Right.
follow, where these other entities that may be allowed to invest with Magic may not have that same statutory requirement that county government has. And so they're able to possibly have more flexibility with where they have funds and are moving them around, but we have a law that says we have to follow that certain collateralized value or amount.
It's a good practice that we have, it's a good policy that we have in place. And like I have said before in my report, that I have reached out to some local banks who have maybe a smaller amount of funds, and I have said, you know, we have funding that I would like to move over into this basket, and at the time, you know, they respond to me, well, we don't want it at this time.
They
You
don't
know,
want money, huh?
because it costs them too.
Right.
So it's a catch-22 at this point.
Understand.
But good question.
When a bank gives collateral, though, then they have less borrowing power on their own, right? Isn't that what that collateral is when they're giving you? If we give them another $250,000, they have to give you collateral for the extra $250,000.
Correct.
Right, so that gives them less borrowing power for themselves because we're using up their collateral.
Correct, depending on how the bank is structured with their collateral. So yes, some banks use collateral, credit unions use lines of credit.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say. Oh, roll call, I'm sorry. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea.
I just have one thing new, if I could, Mr. Chair, share. In our DMV office, we have our kiosk that we've been utilizing for a couple years now. And we got the system in place and we've been using it, and it's been helping not only with traffic flow, but reporting. But one of the bells and whistles that we have with the kiosk that we haven't turned the switch on yet and tested was the calling ability, that the kiosk has. So what that means is currently, in the last 2 years, if you've visited our office, what has happened is you'll check in at the kiosk and then a staff member will call out that ticket number when they're ready to service your transaction. And so now the kiosk has this option that has always been there. We just haven't turned it on. But we turned it on here just this last week to test it out, and it has the calling capability. So now when staff are ready to service a transaction, the system will call the ticket number. So it will say now serving T005 at station 4. So it's something new. When you walk by our office, you'll hear, right now it's set as a male voice coming across the speaker system. Right now we have 2 settings that we can do, male and female. And we figured that the response as far as clarity on how the sound projects, the male voice comes across a little bit bolder. And so we've put that in place, and I think that it's helped not only staff, but customers when they come in. They've always been looking at their ticket number, and then when the ticket number is ready to be processed, it comes up on our TV screen, flashing, showing their number and what station. But staff has always been calling those numbers, and sometimes when the room is full, when the lobby's full, it's hard to know what station just called that number. And so when the ticket system calls the number, it says the station that they would go to as well. So it's just something new, something that we're testing out. Some offices have it where they've used it all along. Some of it have put it in place and then thought, nope, we don't like it. So we're just testing it out right now. So I just wanted to share with you in case you walk by and hear a loud gentleman voice calling a number over the speaker system, you'll know what that's for.
Do that British accent, that's always fun.
Sounds good. Does anybody have any other questions? Commissioner Blaine?
So, Chelsea, thank you for that, and it strikes me now, we haven't talked about the motor vehicle department now for probably a number of months, it seems. So it made me think to ask the question now, what is the flow rate there in the motor vehicle department as far as revenue? We were, when we last talked about this, you had shared with the board, we were doing an awful lot of business down in the motor vehicle department here in the county, and we were, we're running significantly ahead of budget. Are we still seeing, pretty robust flow of traffic through that department? Any comments that you can share with us?
Yes, that's a great question. So looking at the last month, where we're standing as far as the end of July, we are still in profit status, showing a revenue for our department. And that's always nice to see because we have had the discussion and the opportunity to have our part-time staff member go to full-time due to the revenue increase. So we're still seeing that sustained increase of revenue past what we have budgeted. Now, if you look at our trends, as far as traffic flow on a normal year, which I feel like we're in, our busiest time is January, February, March, and then it kind of trickles down a little bit in the summertime, and then when we hit to fall, then it picks back up. And so we're right on target with our numbers. What we have seen is a little bit of difference in our dealer work, just as far as inventory for the dealers. I've had conversations with the dealers around the area that have said, it's really hard to get inventory in. I'm on a waiting list. Production is struggling, and so that, is putting their sales behind too because they're on a waiting list. And so we are seeing that. However, our revenue again is up, so, and we project it to continue. And when we look at the studies based on how many applications we have done year over year, we've always seen an increase of at least 500 applications or more. So,
You know, it's impressive that we've been able to keep up, you know, this level of business, and I think you're correct. Dealers for vehicles, RVs, other things that we license there are really hard to come by, and so it's not surprising that number from the dealers may be down, but it's also impressive that that kind of sends the message out that we have a lot of traffic coming in, even probably outside of the county, into motor vehicle then too.
yes, I think in this past year plus, it has opened doors for others who were not or haven't been serviced in Morrison County, and they have visited our office and have shared with us, you know, this is where I'm coming from now on. So it's just been a good feel. I think one of the things that has made it that way, of course, staff is awesome, but we have our doors open, and there are still restrictions in place with other deputy registrar offices surrounding, whether it's only walk-ins for tab renewals and everything else is by appointment. So when you look at our dynamics on our office, we're quite flexible.
Super, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just take a minute too, I appreciated Chelsea, and her and I have talked about the testing, and just a reminder that the testing office is a state office, and we have yet to get word on when they're going to open, if they're going to open. We did remodel specifically to have a very nice handicap accessible adjacent to the motor vehicle office, ready to go for them, and then COVID hit and we haven't heard word yet. One thing that I appreciate is that different testing sites can be proctors, so whether that's something that's identified eventually at the county here, I don't know, but it certainly is something to explore. It's yet kind of another shift from the state of Minnesota to local expense, but the Pierce School District does do proctoring for exams, so if there are people who know that they need permit testing, they are open. I don't know if Little Falls is, I haven't heard for sure that they're proctoring tests. I don't think they are as of yet, but it's a struggle for constituents out there, and I'm sure you've heard that, and it's frustrating for everyone.
I would like to add, thank you, Deb.
Yep.
We received an update just this morning. So the plan and the intent is that they are looking to reopen all of the exam stations by the end of January of next year. So Denise and I plan to give a legislative update at the next board meeting with more entail of that, as far as how many exam offices are open right now, how many are closed, what they need to put in place to get and meet their goal, and also funding that they received appropriations for the next couple fiscal years to make the reopening happen. So we'll be sharing that.
Okay, good. Well, that's more than we've heard in a long time.
Yes.
Yep.
Just rolled out this morning. Bless you.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, Chelsea, I had a very nice conversation with a lady at the fair, and it was a very nice conversation regarding this exact topic. The fact that in order to have her child get tested, what to do, and that she had been all over the country attempting this and attempting that, and of course, kind of, sort of pointed the finger at myself, which was absolutely fine, because if you don't know, you don't know. And once I explained that whole thing to her, she just was kind of like bewildered as to, really? Are you kidding me? You have a building redone for them and they're not here? And people just don't know that.
No.
They just don't well, I shouldn't say they don't understand. They simply don't know that it's not a Morrison County thing. It's a state of Minnesota thing, so.
Correct.
But thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Good information.
Yes, that, just in a staff meeting that we had this morning, just talking about this subject, it is frustrating not only for individuals who are looking for a testing exam station, but also for us for deputy registrars. So we have a listing that we've created ourselves because there's not really a nice listing to hand out that we can print off of the state's website. However, the phone numbers we've recently learned kind of put you in a calling queue and maybe don't even assist you in making an appointment. And so it's almost like being forced to go online in order to make an appointment to be able to be seen at an exam station. We've just heard from an individual who had contacted a surrounding area exam station that's open, and it is now a pre-recorded phone line, and then it hangs up. So your frustration that you're hearing from individuals is just the same as us. And Denise and I have, reached out, and we've notified our director with the state how we have a beautiful spot in place. We just remodeled, and it's right next to our office, and we hope to be one of the next in line reopen because we feel the need here. We know that there's a need, and we're ready to get that open and service our patrons here in Morrison County and the surrounding areas.
Thank you. I have a question relating to the telephone. When people call here, they first of all get Tabitha, and if you want 1, 2, 3, 4, it depends on which area you go to. When they get transferred to DMV, does somebody answer the phone then? Or does it go through another recording that will call you back later or whatever? Because I've had some
Sure.
people call about very frustrated with that.
Sure. So with the phone volume, we had put different prompts in place because we were not able to even really answer our phones because we had lines out the door with other individuals coming from different counties. So we put in place a new prompt system where it states, for this information, you can press 1, or for driver's license 2. And so if you press, for example, I don't know if the number is 2, but if you press 2 for driver's license, it states, you can press 0 and a staff member will assist you in making an appointment if you're not able to go online and schedule an appointment. And so then it will ring to our office and we'll answer. So we also have partnered with Rural Minnesota SEP. We have a greeter. We normally have almost a full-time greeter in place, but recently we only have very part-time person. So Denise and I always work with the SEP office, and sometimes we try and have 2 greeters with different shifts. And right now we have just a part-time individual, but they help assist with the phone calls and making appointments, scheduling appointments. And of course, if our staff is able to answer that phone, they're answering that phone. And we have reached out to both dealerships, banks on how to get in contact with us.
I just guess that I understand their frustration. It seems like whenever we call a government place, wherever it's at, you got to go through this process, this process, this process, and you very seldom get somebody to talk to. And the public gets very frustrated with that.
And if I may follow up with that, Mr. Chair, that's what bothers me too, is because the fact that why wouldn't they put, if you need to talk to somebody, press 0. You need the DMV 1. They don't, you go through a gazillion prompts. Okay, now if you need to talk to somebody rather than listen to this recording, I just don't understand why we don't reverse them.
So many phone calls that we do receive for our office is for the exam station. We can't answer those, our phone prompts state that the Little Falls office is closed. And so many of those questions that they want us to look into or answer, we may not have the answer because it's not our office. They also have the options where we, if they're calling to look up price of tabs because they don't have their renewal statement, it's almost like our staff member has to go into their actual profile and almost go through the whole processing to get that total amount when they can call the state and they can get that amount from the state. So we have talked about this many of times when we looked at our revenue tracking, that there's many things that our office has taken on that is a no revenue transaction. And a lot of it is the phone.
And I understand that, Mr. Chair and Chelsea, because it's not just the county. You call a credit card company, it's again, you go through all these prompts and then at the end, that's most of the time why you're calling is because you want to talk to somebody.
Right.
Commissioner Blaine?
So, Chelsea, this discussion kind of leads a question to me, or from me. So with the exam station having been closed and you're saying that there, we could reopen that maybe the end of January, let's say if we're selected. Does that action and that opportunity for service to the public then, does that require input from your staff or interaction from your staff, time, effort, whatever, in that reopening? And if so, are you and your staff there poised to answer that?
I think where your question is coming from is, does our office have input on reopening? And as much as we've shared, we're ready for them to come and for the state to have us next on the list. I don't foresee that our input is weighed in.
I think maybe you're misunderstanding, or maybe I'm not clear enough. So if that station was to reopen, let's say next month, next week, tomorrow, do you or your staff do work in there? Do you devote time in there, or is that facility or office run strictly by the state of Minnesota?
Thank you for the clarification. The office is strictly ran by the state of Minnesota, not by our office at all. However, when we do have our exam station open, we do have the impact of once they do their testing, they come in and get their permit. So once we have those doors open, our revenue numbers are going to increase, our transaction volume is going to increase, and we're ready for that.
But you don't provide any staff support or anything like that to that exam office that is run strictly by the state?
That is correct, that they're state employees, not county employees.
Okay, and I apologize for the lack of clarity there earlier, but at least we're on the right page then. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything?
Mr. Chair, we have a lease with the state of Minnesota, and so the only components of the lease that we have when that is operating are things like the basic, housekeeping services and whatnot for the rent that we do charge them for that space. But that's a lease arrangement, a tenant.
Okay.
Does our recording, when they get to, and they want to talk about doing that license, the testing, is there a recording that says that we do not do that it is the state? Okay.
Yes, yep.
I'd like to get back to where, hello, what do you need?
Mr. Chair, I think we all do, and I think we
Yes.
certainly all want to get there, but it's weighing that whole, if we had two staff on the phone all day long, and that's all they would do, we wouldn't be able to help the people in line. It is a balance. I think we
Yep,
do the
I
best we
understand.
can. We try very, very hard. If something bounces back to admin, I know we all are asking questions about specifics to see if we can't help with that information and at least direct them to where they can get it. So we're doing the best without committing, 3 full-time staff to answer the phone all day long. And so I know that's a frustration for the public, though I totally get it.
It's no different than, our staff and individuals coming in asking for exam questions or locations, and us doing our best in sharing that information on where they can go, the closest location, the phone numbers that don't answer, and how the best way is to go online and try and book an appointment. So,
Sounds good, thank you very much.
yes, thank you.
Okay, next, Public Works, Steve, welcome.
Morning, Steve.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have 3 requests for board action in your packet for your consideration today. course, with the good weather that we've had, our construction program has really stayed on track, and we're in a position this year to make sure, I think, that we get everything completed and not like the last few years where we had carryover. So at this point in time, I'd like to bring forward projects that we have already completed this year. Earlier, a contract 296 was awarded to Knife River Corporation, their North Central Division, for state aid project 621 and 070, which is all on our County State Aid Highway 21 running from Upsala to the Stearns County line, which we had pavement milling, new bituminous surfacing, we paved shoulders, aggregate shouldering went down outside of that, and then the Highway Safety Improvement Project was the sinusoidal edge line and also the safety wedge that went into place. This work has all been completed. It's significant, or it is in compliance with our contract, and we're requesting the board to authorize us to make final payment.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by,
Second. Sorry.
okay,
Who said it? Well, Greg should do it.
okay, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. Any further discussion? If not,
Sorry.
this is roll call. Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson, aye. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is the next contract 297, which also was awarded to Knife River Corporation earlier this year. We have a number of projects that were included in this contract. And one of the reasons why we have different contracts is the first one incorporated that Highway Safety Improvement Project, which is a federal project, creates substantially more requirements for us, and every project you tie with it, then all those projects have to comply. They become basically federalized. And so we keep our federal projects separate, bid those individually. This contract was the rest of our county road and county state aid highway projects, which we have more flexibility with, less bureaucracy to deal with. And so the projects that were included in this were our County State Aid Highway 15, where we had a number of culvert pipe that were replaced and tapers constructed. County State Aid Highway 24, which was a upgrade in the structural strength from Stearns County through Bolus to Trunk Highway 238. County State Aid Highway 26 running from Bolus to Royalton. Our SAP 703003 was in the city of Hillman. That's a small municipal stretch of road on our system in which we was a mill and resurfacing in Hillman. And then two county projects, County Road 247 and County Road 248, which were thin overlay projects. And so this work has all been completed in compliance with this contract documents. We're requesting that the board would authorize all the resolutions so that we can make final payment to the contractor.
Can I get a motion? Commissioner Blaine, seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? If not, this is roll call. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson, aye. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and then our final contract is contract 298, also a Knife River Corporation project, in which County State Aid Highway 34 from Buckman to Gutwell's Corner was milled, resurfaced, paved shoulders, aggregate shouldering, and then also our safety included the sinusoidal edge line and our safety wedge. This work is completed, and we'd request board to authorize us to make final payment.
Okay, can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion? If not, roll call. Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson, aye. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Wincher? Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
And we got Commissioner Jelinski. Motion carries.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Steve, if I could
Question.
ask you a question. In these, when we're considering these and you're talking about replacement of culverts, does that also, when we're talking about replacement, does that also include the liner process that you shared with us at the Public Works meeting Friday, which I thought that was extremely interesting, how the use of technology now to readdress some of these failing culverts and that. So when you talk about future projects where we are doing culvert replacement, would the relining fall under that replacement, or would that be stated significantly?
Each pipe on a project is inspected by the staff before we're gonna get into major construction on it. And they have to make some determinations on its condition. Is the bottom all, rotted out of it? Is it moving? Is it heave? All those things play into whether we're gonna replace it. We're gonna do a replacement and a taper, or we're gonna do the cast-in-place lining of the pipe. And so we do, County State Highway 34 had several pipe on that project that we did what you're referring to, where we cast in place on site a liner in that pipe. Like 15, most of those, I don't think we had any cast in place pipe on that one. Most of those were either replacements or replacements with tapers.
So in other words, when we talk about replacement of pipe, we may not be talking about full excavation and putting a brand new pipe in it.
No.
We may be talking about using that cast in place relining,
Correct.
and that would be considered replacement of the
Correct.
pipe.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Looks like we're gonna take about a 5-minute break.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, God, I'm walking with my, and I'm not even dressed right, my pants are stuck in my socks.
Mess.
Oh, so just so you know.
Yeah.
I don't know what dates were you gonna send, but.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, what do you have on for administrators report?
Talk about that interim thing. Be a good thing to, just hold on a second. Wait, just do that, we'll just leave the week, we'll just.
Good, how are you?
We will be starting up here in a second.
Wait for it.
Oh, we're waiting for Michael.
No, I'm just kidding. Being funny. My husband told me if nobody else laughs, you're not really funny, Deb, but sometimes I still think
Well,
I am.
yeah, that's fine. It's all whatever makes you feel good. Our calendars are gonna be the 15th through the 28th when we get there, guys. We'll wait for Michael here.
He's the guy that makes the coffee, so I gotta give him credit for that.
Zach, you put that down, Mike makes coffee. Yeah, put the headline.
I'll make sure I get that in there, so that's on the record.
Yeah,
that,
you won't know
The
that.
headlines, Commissioner Lemire makes coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get back to administrators' report.
All right, Mr. Chair, I have a couple of action items. As you recall, it was a month or so ago, we talked about the Logis Insurance Group and about remaining with the group for the most recent RFP that went out. At the time, they didn't have this, in which you had to opt in to that concept or identify in writing that that's the case, where that is the case. And so they do have this acknowledgement here. Tabitha will get it, so it's ready for, if you want to cross out the entities when it says entity. But we'll sign that if you don't mind. We discussed it, and by default we stayed in, but now there's an active acknowledgement form that means we will participate in that rating, or that contract with that.
Can I get a motion for that?
I'll move on it.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski and seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Great, thank you. We'll get that signed and back to him. And then the other action item, which I don't have it in this board packet because I brought up the old one, is the interim work. So as we had talked about previously, the interim, you had identified a desire to work internally when it comes to interim administrator functions. And so Mike and I talked to staff and have identified, and they've agreed for service in the interim until somebody new is appointed in my position. Brad Bold and Beth Hamlin as a joint effort to disperse the duties and responsibility for that. And so in doing so, as historically has been done, given it is such a different level of responsibility for a time period that isn't just filling a short-term leave of absence for medical reason or things of that nature, it has been customary that we've identified a slight change in compensation for that. So as proposed is what I'd recommend, and that would be a grade 43, step 9 plus 8 for Brad, and Beth being a grade 34, step 5, with having the ability to have any hours over 40 paid out instead of comp time. And that is something that we've done before, is typical in some instances, especially when it's been the interim administrator that mirrors that. And then that will last until a new administrator is appointed and fully serving in the respective identified capacities. Brad and I were talking, and somebody will come in probably right away and relieve Brad of his component of this, but depending upon who comes in and what experience they have, whether that's immediate for different HR responsibilities or not, I don't know, but Brad and Beth would certainly work through that and identify when that is appropriate to end. It could be immediately, it could be after a short period of time. I'm not certain what that is. That gives you flexibility to identify that. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. Could I get a motion on that?
I'll make a motion for more discussion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Winter, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I guess before I even say anything, this is nothing against Brad or anything like that. This is just more of a procedure thing that I see that is happening here. This, and again, our going out administrator who will be leaving here probably less than a month, you and the administrator made this decision that we were gonna put Brad and Beth as the interim? That's the question I had.
No, you are gonna make that decision today.
But
I talked to department heads, and Brad said he would do it. He doesn't.
But who approached Brad about it, I guess, that's my
Oh, I've
question.
asked Brad.
You asked Brad?
I've asked Amy, I've asked a lot of the department heads if anybody's interested in it.
Because and again, the procedure thing is that I see here is that where did we even make a decision that we were gonna have an interim? There's no vote in the minutes? Did we, as elected officials, decide we were even gonna appoint an interim? And I believe, the record is here, I was still on the fence at that time. I was never approached that we wanted to have an interim. And I see this as, I don't know, maybe disagree or agree with me, the rest of the board. Did we take a vote that we wanted an interim?
I guess today would be your vote.
Okay, so maybe I want someone else, maybe, and I do have someone else in mind, but those are things that, it seems like that this is kind of being force-fed on the rest of the board without any more discussion. And my point is, Mr. Chair, is that I believe you and our administrator have taken on this yourself, and again, Commissioner Blaine, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was brought up 2 or 3 weeks ago that you made a recommendation that our administrator going out of, that won't be here in 3 or 4 weeks, would not be part of this. And now we're having her make that decision with you. And you said to me, you says, well, just everyday operation. This is not an everyday operation. This is a major decision that us board would have to make. And it was never, and I don't know, all 4 of you county commissioners apparently were at the Public Works meeting, and this was something that I think that was, we had a planning session that was canceled because there was nothing on the agenda. Why was that canceled? I mean, we could have discussed that at the planning session. All of us would have been there.
Do you think we don't need an interim?
I would like to have that discussion. That would be something, because I think it was brought up, we have excellent department heads that could handle this without that. Maybe we do, and again, I want to reassure, this has nothing to do with Brad, this has to do with procedure. And again, I agree, again, apparently I must be correct on Commissioner Blaine, I agree, I don't believe our county administrator, that's, again, I'm going to reiterate that, is going out, that should be part of this. Why is she being part of this when she's not going to be here anymore?
Well, I think she's helping us find somebody in-house to help run the place while she's gone.
But
So
you contacted Brad and said that?
Yes, Brad, I've asked all the department heads if they're interested.
No, you haven't, because I've talked to some, and they were not approached.
Okay, not all of them.
Okay, so that was,
Okay.
so I just want you to clarify that, so. So I just need to know procedurally, where in the minutes did it say that we were going to have an interim?
I guess if you vote for this today, we'll have an interim. If we don't, then we'll have more discussion, I guess.
Mr. Chair, the direction that I took away from the last time we spoke was that it was the opinion of at least the majority that we look internal, but options were nice. And so I had looked around for external options, didn't hear back and complete that work till late last week, because there were a few things. Somebody had mentioned surrounding counties. Somebody had mentioned whether or not there's any type of professional services we could hire. And so I had reached out to kind of all of the above. I had looked at whether there's anybody who's left service that still does that. I reached out to the Minnesota County Management Association, which includes city and county leaders, whether or not there's anybody that does that work. That was done last week. I reached out to surrounding counties to see if there's any interest in any type of shared option, because that was brought up. I reached out to some just individuals that I know that might be interested to be able to offer you some options. That did not wrap up, and I did not hear from anybody that there was interest or there was the availability until late in the week last week. And so that's when that even possibility kind of concluded, at least from what I would do. And I didn't go beyond that because, again, it was kind of casually brought up that it seemed as if the internal option was more sought after. I just got that through conversation and discussion last time we spoke. But I don't care. I'm just bringing you an option for
And there
consideration.
you just said it, you don't care, because
Well,
you're
I don't
outgoing.
care what
that's
you'd want
fine.
me to do.
I understand that, but here's the thing is, and I also look at this here, is that we all agreed as a board member that we were gonna be very transparent with I'll say the record and everything like that, because we want to bring this out. And I know in my notes that we would even have special meetings, and it really gets me here is that why, apparently we all knew, or not we, you two only knew this decision was coming before the planning session. Why did we cancel the planning session and you make it for the Public Works meeting to bring that forward at that time? Why didn't we do it at the planning session? Is it because the record's not gonna be there? I don't know.
I don't even know where you're going with this.
Well, where I'm going with this,
I mean,
it
I
just
don't even
seems like
know if-
you two are making a decision, not giving us any other option than, hey, let's put Brad and Beth as a county
You
administrator.
know what? We meet here once every 2 weeks on a public meeting and a planning meeting. If you want to call and talk about something, you need to call and talk about it. Because we can't meet together, all 5 of us, without doing this, so.
We could have met at a planning session. I don't know, that was on public, but it was canceled on Monday, I believe.
Yeah.
So again, this procedurally is just, I just see a bad taste in my mouth in this one. It's like, where are we going this? And again, we have our outgoing administrator doing this, that we as elected officials should be the ones that are responsible for this, not her.
Commissioner Lemire?
I just want to state that, and no offense to Commissioner Winter, but when we did have our last discussion on moving forward with an interim, I know I voiced my opinion that I would like to see it done internally, and then not only does it have to be one person, but maybe it could be multiple persons. And I did have a discussion with Deb on this issue, and they came up with this recommendation, and I particularly think this will work great for the interim. I'd rather see Brad and Beth take over the administrative position than someone from outside the community that will just be here for 3-4 months. By the time they get the gist of what's going on, and just knowing the individuals and what they do in our county, they'll be replaced at that time. So it'd be like we not even have someone. I guess I just want to put forth that I don't think it's anything malice between Mike and Deb, because I had conversations with them too, and, or with Deb, just move forward with something similar to this, and this is what they brought forth, and I kind of like this idea.
Anybody else got anything?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner
I
Jelinski?
believe I also said that in a perfect world, it would be wonderful if we could have a department head that could break away from their position, if you will, and offer that same interim work. I'm prepared to say, geez, thanks a lot, Brad, for stepping up and being able to figure this out with you and your staff at Social Services. And Beth, not that you don't have a plate full already, to be able to say, you know, I'm going to be putting in more than 8 hours, really? And I get that. So I'm reading this as exactly what it is for Brad and Beth to assume the duties of county administrator during the interim. And maybe I was on the wrong page, maybe the same book, but I kind of like it. So.
Anybody else have anything?
Well, Mr. Chair, since Commissioner Wincher invited me into the conversation, you know, I'll just say, Commissioner Wincher, I can understand maybe your frustration or hesitation or whatever. I too maybe was a little bit surprised that we had gone from having maybe what was more, I considered to be more casual conversation about this. And I think it was stated a number of times that the county we were in a really good place right now. And so I actually thought that there would be a point in time where the entire board would have a conversation about addressing this further, and or, you know, possibly having conversations with with prospective department heads or individuals on this. In other words, I thought that we would have another meeting of this board to discuss that prior to coming forward with where all of a sudden we have a resolution with pay increases and timelines here, you know, and I understand, you know, this is temporary. These are, you know, temporary responsibilities and temporary compensations to tie us over. But, you know, I kind of share your thought process in that manner that, you know, there would be more inclusion of maybe the entire board in this process. And I think, you know, that's where, you know, you had referenced before a comment I had made about our outgoing administrator's role and in what would be day-to-day activities, you know, going forward until her departure. And I still feel that's important in providing, in protecting integrity of both parties here going forward too. But I also recognize this issue is to address something temporarily. We can, you know, we can go forward with this, but you know, we as a board, you know, I think unless I'm reading this wrong or understanding this wrong, it will be this entire board who will make these decisions going forward with our new administrator on the entire workings of the business of the county. So, you know, this will be, you know, the actions that'll take place, the individuals that will serve in these roles in the interim till a new administrator is found. But maybe it's best that maybe this is an example for us on the board to maybe do a better job of communicating amongst the five of us about what we want and how we see this going forward. To your point, Commissioner Wincher, of procedure. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And if I may follow up, Mr. Chair, again, I must have read this at least a half a time. And my question is, well, I'm going to go back a little bit. I've known that they're putting in a lot of overtime for payroll already. That, you know, again, I got our administrator shaking her head, and yet in here it says that they're going to pay them more overtime because of the fact that, I don't know, we're paying them overtime for the payroll already, but Beth, and she does a great job as an HR, is a mix of words here. Human resource director. She's a human resource manager, I believe.
Yep, that's the point. That's what I do. And so the point is to identify people in the interim that will do what I did, right? And so my function is the human resource director component of my work. It's different than what Beth does on a day-to-day basis. And so as is similar, when people leave in this type of situation, that function will be taken on. And it is at a much higher level than what she currently does. So that is exactly the point. It is different. Payroll's wrapping up, so the overtime for that is winding down, which is fantastic. When it comes to regular functions, we are full staffed now, other than, you know, me leaving. So that's good, and that will help. Similar to what we did with when there's a project base that's going to require extra time, like the facilities project. When John, the facilities director or manager, and his staff worked a lot extra on a specific function, we identified as paying out that overtime instead of comping that overtime, because it's darn near impossible to take off during a time period when you know you're going to have to step up and put a lot of time in. So this has been customary action when it comes to things like that, for a special defined period of time where I know extra time is going to be put in. And so, again, not unusual and not unheard of, and just being transparent when it comes to this concept, just so everybody's on the same page.
And I know I'm one of 5 of all of us here that I am not gonna vote for this, just because of the fact that I think it was just brought in the back door, and we didn't have a great discussion on this. And yeah, we're having a discussion now, but I just think we were not transparent enough with the public on this. And yeah, I contacted some of them too, but I didn't believe that I should bring it to the board here. This is my idea. I thought we'd have a discussion about who we would, recommend in this here. There's just, now we're having a discussion how the procedure was. So anyway, we'll move on.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lemire.
I just want to state that, one of the biggest parts of county government is the social services and the public health department. So it makes sense that Brad steps up to that role, and then Beth is already a human resource manager, for her to step into that role. I can't think of a better combination of people to take over your role, Deb. And to put it on the record too, Mr. Chair, I have no problem with Deb being part of the discussion. I have no problem with her helping us out until she leaves in September 3rd or whenever that is. I think she's been a great employee to the county for 16 years, Deb? And I have no problem with her helping us out until her departure. That's all I got, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, and then a couple of other things that I had updates on. The meeting with David Drown and Associates with Gary Wires, you all had scheduled individual meetings, and those are, I think most of them are happening tomorrow. He is meeting with the department head group independent of the county board tomorrow per his request. So we won't have a regular department head meeting. That will be the agenda item. I won't be there as requested also by Gary. This allows him to kind of get feedback from the leadership group and then be able to compile that and bring that back to you as decision makers when it comes to the process of finding my replacement. I had mentioned before that we are full-time staffed now. We did hire, we posted and hired Kaylee Becker, who is a good product and yet another example of the internship program with Sourcewell being very successful. In terms of, we've had this happen a number of times, and I think that's the intent of it, to really find good, smart, hardworking, dedicated people in internship positions that then are now feeders for county government work. And so that was a good example of that, and I'm excited to have her on board too. And I think that's it for now. I will work with Brad and Beth in terms of different transitions and keep you guys informed about what we come up with.
Okay,
Only one more board meeting, so.
Thank you. Committee reports and upcoming schedules. Commissioner Blaine, would you like to go through that for us, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair, I will do that. And the dates would be August 15th through the 28th. Would that be correct? So on Tuesday, August 17th, we will have a county board planning session at 8:30 a.m. On Wednesday, August 18th, there was scheduled a community health board meeting for Morse and Todd-Wadena County from 3 to 4:30. That meeting has been canceled. On Thursday, August 19th at 7 p.m., I will have an Egg Society meeting, and I believe that will be at the fairgrounds. On Tuesday, August 24th at 9 o'clock a.m., this county board will meet. And on Thursday, August 26th, The Region 5 Board will meet at 6 PM, I believe at Sourcewell in Staples. And also on August 26th at 7 o'clock PM, this board will meet with our engineer, Steve Bukowski, and we will be holding a public hearing at Scandia Valley Town Hall at 7 PM. This will be to discuss the issue of the rail, the closure of the county road up there and in relation to the rail line. And with that, Mr. Chair, that's, I think, about as much as I can cover.
Okay, thank you. Did we do planning commission on the 20, oh, no, I bet you that's the old planning commission on the 23rd. I've got community development on the 17th at 12:15. That'll be at Pine Country. Got the public hearing. I got Mississippi Headwaters on the 27th at 9 o'clock in the morning. That'll be virtual yet. Other than that, I'm good.
We missed the, Mr. Chair, I apologize. I think I missed the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting at 6 PM on August 17th.
August 17th, okay.
Good catch.
Sorry about that.
Good,
Thank you.
because I don't have that on here. Okay, Commissioner Lemire.
You guys got me covered. Thanks.
Commissioner Wincher.
All right, I have a Zoom on the 18th at University Extension. That's from 10 to noon. We got that one. And on the 27th, I have a Soil and Water, 8 o'clock. Not even sure what that'll be, but I'll have to let you know. Most of the time it's here at the courthouse, but they're opening up the COVID thing, so not for sure. I'll let Tabitha know on that, but it's 8 o'clock. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Jelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 18th at 11 o'clock in the morning, I've got a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Executive Committee meeting. At 3:30, I have a State Emergency Communications Board Executive Committee meeting. Both of them, I believe, are virtual. At 5 o'clock that same evening, I've got a Hands of Hope meeting. That also, I believe, is virtual. On the 19th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have an Emergency Services Board Owners and Operators Users Committee meeting. That is virtual. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm on a committee with the State Emergency Communications Board setting up and developing a program for new commissioners as they come in on that board as to what is expected of them as what they do. And at 2 o'clock that same day, I've got a 911 Strike Force meeting. That's that special meeting that I've been involved in, should be done sometime in September, I believe. I believe Commissioner Blaine hit on the board meeting on the 24th, which I hope doesn't go into the afternoon because I have to have a crown that afternoon.
Oh.
So I'm really looking forward to that. On the 26th at 12:30 in the afternoon, I have a State Emergency Communications Board meeting, and that is going to be virtual to the best of my knowledge. At 2 o'clock that same day, I have a 911 Strike Force meeting. And we have that. And Mr. Chair, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.